Thank you for bearing with us. Just on the health front and Lebanon, of course, the World Health Organization tells us that they and their partners are continuing to support Lebanon's health system by providing medical supplies and technical assistance. For its part, the World Food Programme is scaling up its emergency food assistance to reach up to 1 million people impacted by the current crisis. The World Food Programme has also been working with donors and partners for several months to stockpile food supplies in strategic areas. Also, our World Food Programme colleagues are actively supporting vulnerable Syrian refugees and the most at-risk Lebanese people in Lebanon. Unfortunately, as Mr. Lacroix just said, funding shortfalls at one point in the beginning of the year made it necessary to reduce food assistance to those who need it the most. Also, UNHCR tells us that they and their humanitarian partners are scaling up their efforts to assist both Syrian and Lebanese families crossing the border. And in such circumstances, as you well know, women and children are bearing the brunt of this conflict. That's why our colleagues at the UN Population Fund are supporting 17 safe spaces for women and girls across Lebanon. And our humanitarian coordinator, Imran Riza, who leads the humanitarian response for Lebanon, spoke today about how he deplores the dangerous escalation, saying that some of the attacks that we have seen that disrupt the delivery of essential services, delay life-saving medical care, and violate people's fundamental rights to access health care must not happen. Also, turning to Gaza, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us they're very concerned about the toll of repeated airstrikes on shelters for displaced people in the Strip. In recent days, at least 6 schools serving as shelters for displaced people have been struck. That's in addition to a deadly strike on Al Amal Institute for Orphans yesterday, which has also been serving as a shelter in the west of Gaza City. Once again, OCHA stresses that international humanitarian law demands that the parties take constant care to spare civilians from harm. Civilians must be protected and their essential needs must be met. OCHA tells us that our humanitarian partners are continuing to provide treatment to malnourished children in Gaza despite the limited entry of critical supplies and the loss of access to some of the humanitarian warehouses. Even in the face of these challenges, humanitarian partners screened more than 24,000 children in Gaza for malnutrition last month alone, bringing the total screened since mid-January to nearly 319,000 children under the age of 5. This includes more than 70,000 children in Gaza's northern governorate. All screened children, nearly 22,000 have been diagnosed with acute malnutrition. In September, nearly 50,000 children under the age of 5, as well more than 18,000 pregnant or breastfeeding women received supplementary feeding. However, OCHA warns that partners have limited ability to store supplies that require refrigeration. In September and to date, World Food Programme reached nearly 900,000 vulnerable people in Gaza and in the West Bank, including more than 688,000 in Gaza alone. This is significantly below the usual number of people reached by the World Food Programme as a result of Israeli-imposed bureaucratic hurdles, lack of security guarantees within Gaza, and insufficient border crossing points. Forced population movements have also disrupted the capacity of partners to maintain operations and distribute items, including food, to those who are in need of it. The World Food Programme provided over 9.4 million hot meals through a network of 72 community kitchens, and through that they reached 186,161 people in September. While hot meals and the distribution of fresh bread through bakeries continues, WFP will no longer distribute food baskets through its general food distributions across Gaza in October, as the flow of essential goods has been critically restricted. And in the West Bank, we and our partners are gearing up to support Palestinian farmers during the annual olive harvest. OCHA and its partners warn that access restrictions and widespread settler violence pose high risks and challenges for these farmers, potentially undermining their livelihoods. At present, more than 9,600 hectares of olive cultivated lands remain unharvested because of access restrictions. The result has been the loss of estimated 1,200 metric tons of last year's olive oil harvest. This morning, back here, just across the hall in the Security Council, James Swan, who is the acting special representative for Somalia and head of the UN assistance mission there, briefed the council on the situation in Somalia. He pointed out that while making commendable efforts to sustain military operations against al-Shabaab, Somalia is at the same time tackling the challenges of force generation, taking over security responsibilities from the African Union transition mission in Somalia, planning the transition to the proposed African Union support and stabilization mission in Somalia, and implementing crucial stabilization programs in recovered areas. He said the UN continues to support the federal government on these activities, working closely with the African Union and other partners. Mr. Swan added that Somalia's humanitarian and development challenges are intensified by climate shocks, warning that scarcity of resources and displacement communities are in turn driving conflict. He stressed that building greater resilience to the effect of climate change is essential for Somalia's stability.